kind of. All right. Yeah, that's that one over there. I can stretch. I get it. There we go. Thanks. The long leg of the law. Oh, better. Sorry to push you around.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order at 6:32. First order of business is the public hearing. We hear the needs and preferences from the community. So if anybody would like to get up and speak, please head up to the podium, give your name and address for the record, and say your piece.
Point of information, you have to vote to open the hearing since it's a public hearing, and you have to read the purpose in the stated advertisement for the hearing.
Do you have that? Is that what it is?
Yeah, that is.
Make a motion.
Sure. Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
Pass this down. Pass this down.
All right. So Groveland Community Preservation Committee will hold a public hearing October 17th, 2024 at 6:30 PM. Town Hall Meeting Room, 183 Main Street, to ascertain the needs, possibilities, resources, and preferences for community preservation and to hear comments, questions on the 2025 request for proposal with the submission guidelines for community preservation project proposals. The RFP is posted at groveland.ma CPC page, 2025 CPC application for funds, and at the EDPC department. The CPA can be used for open space, recreation, community housing, and historic preservation. Here we are. Now, if anybody would like to come up and speak, please.
Well done. Anybody?
I was told to come.
Okay. Okay. Well, I have a proposal or two. Hi, everybody. Patrick Molina, 7 Savory Lane. I have two proposals that are going to be more formalized between now and the deadline for submissions, of course, but I just want to bring them to light. The first one should be really, really easy. Garbage cans on the rail trail. There's lots of concern about keeping it nice. It's a really nice venue. People use it a lot, but there's no place to, dump your trash, and that includes pet waste and things like that. So obviously, people that abut the trail are not happy about it. People that use the trail don't want to see that as well. It would be awfully easy and awfully cheap to put a couple of trash cans on the Main Street terminus, the Center Street spot, and maybe the other side that's more adjacent to Georgetown. I'm happy to work with anyone to figure out what they would look like or how they would work, but if we have people that maintain the trail, grabbing 3 trash bags doesn't seem like it would be a Herculean additional cost to the town. So that's something that I will more formalize and put a proposal forward.
Patrick, you might also want to think about any other items that need to be added to the trail. Benches might be another, additional benches. I know there's a couple there.
Right.
And
It is pretty sparse.
yeah, and also, there was a requirement on the purchase of an abutting property for a couple of historic kiosks. And so, again, probably wouldn't be a bad idea to throw that in there, too.
Would you get me the details of the people
Yeah.
that are trying to do that? I know that there's already one at the Main Street terminus. that's already up and out there.
Yep.
So, I mean, and that looks good, and I think people would like it, and so
Yeah.
things of that nature probably would make a
Yeah.
lot of sense.
Yeah.
Maybe, oh, go ahead.
Excuse me. Mike, where was the other piece of property that they were looking to acquire?
No, this was when we purchased one of the Center Street Greenway properties. Part of the agreement was to put up some kiosks about the property and who used to own it.
Oh, okay.
I was, maybe not just trash cans, but also dog waste cans. those
Yeah,
little
I think that-
terminals as
right.
well. I know that's
Sure.
a key thing as well, so maybe both a little bit of trash and the dog.
Something
waste.
specifically
With
designed,
poop
right? Yeah,
with the
for sure.
bags
Yeah.
for people to, they have the dispensers, so.
Good idea.
Yeah, 100%. But I'm on board for quarterbacking it and seeing it through and getting it to you guys in a complete and formal way. Anything else on that one? Okay.
Have you ever submitted any of these before?
I'm not, but I'll jump through there. I'll make
I would
sure.
just say the one thing to make sure is the follow-up maintenance costs as well, to show what we need to do in the future to maintain them and things like that.
I know we
That's part
can't
of
use
that.
CPC funds to maintain it, but
Correct.
you want the information so you know what.
To make sure who's gonna maintain it afterwards, instead of the one-time
Sure, of
cost.
course. Secondly, the second proposal is going to be for permanent lights at the softball, baseball field at the Pines, the one that doesn't have lights currently. The smaller of the two fields already does have lights. Having been there yesterday, it was nice to have, some overarching, light when we were having that fun time at Pumpkin Fest. But I talked to Groveland Light, and we are working on a proposal, things like the functionality of lights now is better than it was in years past, so it's cheaper to run them, they're cheaper to buy, they're easier to maintain. So I've already gotten the basics of like what it might cost to install them. The Groveland Power and Light says that they're probably willing to donate the time to put up the poles, and do some of that sort of thing. But one of my big things has always been, we have all these assets in town. Let's improve the functionality of those assets. It's you already see how well the small field is being used. I live real close to it. I see at night. People using it all the time. I think having some of these fields have permanent lights is going to be a really nice thing for us, and it's not super expensive either. I think the lights themselves were something along the lines of like 22,000, plus or minus. And the cost of that ultimately can be offset by the events that we can use them for, and the operating costs of that field were something like $22 an hour, which we could certainly roll into any fees that we would have for people using the space. So, ultimately, while yes, there'll be a capital expenditure, it's capital expenditure that can be ultimately recouped then some by the town by using them. So it's nicer for the town. It's ultimately going to be revenue positive, and it's a start of we'll test it out on one field and see how it goes. But that's something I'm pretty passionate about, and I'll follow up with a more formalized proposal.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does anyone know, because we were down there last night, and it got pretty dark, there is two temporary lighting units that are there that are, whether they're rented, I don't know if we own them. Do we know, like,
That's football.
football? So they rent those?
They
that's
rent
theirs?
them, they
Okay.
maintain them, they run
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, when I saw them, I was like, okay, those could be
Yeah.
helpful, not, because it was definitely getting dark once the sun went down, but I didn't know if those were ours or is football, that makes
At
sense.
the football league.
Makes sense, yep.
One of the additional functionalities of the new lights that are cheaper and better than the old ones is that you can change the colors of them too. So like you could cast on the spooky hayride and it would be fun and whatever, like those sorts of things. But things that we wouldn't necessarily think of at the outset, other additional, kind of nice things. But all right, I'll follow up. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, couple of projects. The first is a renewal.
Just state your name and address for the record here.
Mike Dempsey, 33 Uptack Road. The first project is an open space project. It's a replacement for one of the projects that was ruled to be expired, and that is to purchase a small parcel that abuts VZ Park. It's about 3.5 acres. It was approved at town meeting in 2018, and over the course of the last years, been going back and forth with the owners regarding the sale of the property to the town, trying to get that accomplished, and just hasn't been able to be accomplished yet. So I want to put that in. It's an open space project. The purpose is to provide a buffer to the park and to prevent any other abutters from purchasing it and putting a pool in or something. It's primarily forested, mix of upland and wetland. So the commission, conservation will be putting that proposal in. Another project that is related somewhat to a previous project is it's a historic preservation project for 46 Washington Street. It's one of the remaining mill buildings, used to be used by the town for a number of different reasons. We have a project that we did some work on the outside of the building successfully. The only remaining work to be done on that project was a can't think of it, but anyway, this project, a new project would tackle the outside of the building and some of the other requirements to make the building useful.
Are we talking exterior renovation and painting or siding?
No, it's,
Window replacement?
it's a brick building, and so the building needs some work on the masonry. Also, the building needs a new septic system and heating system. So at least those three things are potentially going to be put can be put forward on that. So again, it's in the very preliminary stages, but that's, like I say, it's an idea to follow up on what we've already invested in the property.
And what is the property used for now currently?
It's not used for anything.
Fair enough. And what use do you see for it once it's renovated? Or are we,
Well, there's a number of things. There were potential uses for it before. Talk about using it for art space. There's historic interest in the building. So again, that would have to be pursued before the proposal was put in. Yeah, Kim?
You're talking about the old water department?
Yes, right.
Okay, yeah. Because about a year ago or something, it was possibly talked about making it a senior center or something. And by the time we got done talking about it, it was financially exorbitant, because the building also has to be abated, because the entire basement furnace system is covered in asbestos. So, but the other thing is you can't expand anything farther up Washington Street because that comes underneath the Superfund area. But it's a good possibility.
Yeah, I don't think there's any plans to expand the building. That was strictly, had something to do with the senior use of it, but this would be strictly for the building as it exists.
If this went forward, would that get in the way of any potential future plan to expand it, or would just,
No,
Helpful.
I don't think so. You know, I mean, this is for, under historic preservation, being in a historic building, so the focus is going to primarily be on preserving that building.
it would probably enhance it, regardless of what the future use would be, however it would be, you know.
Whatever the future use it
Right.
would be in that footprint of the building.
Sure.
The other project, I think, I'll let Claire come up and talk about it, is some additional requirements for Washington Hall.
Claire Walsh, 478 Main Street, Groveland. I'm the president of the Historical Society. And I think most of you have seen, hopefully, the inside of the building as well, Washington Hall. And what a nice job was done restoring that building. It was on the verge of being burnt for practice. But anyway, what we want to do at this point, because we feel it is eligible to be on the historic register. And we did put in an application last year to put it on the register. I guess there's some logistics going on as far as the applications go. So anyway, we're going to, I guess, resubmit it is what we have to do. And I just ask for your, approval to continue on with that project. What we have to do now, they told us we have to get pictures of the before and after building, what it looked like inside and out, the things that we did, showing in pictures, and what it looks like now, basically. And it has to be submitted on a specific format into the state, to the Mass Commission, Historical Commission, and then they determine really if it can go forward to Washington. So I think that's basically the story in a nutshell.
Tell us about the need for better parking there.
Oh, the parking. It's been a problem since the get-go, and we thought we were going to kind of straighten it out this year, but it just didn't happen. It just took a turn for the worst. So what we would like to do now is put in another request, because now we can probably fit maybe 20 cars if we're lucky in back of the building, and then we have one entrance to that parking lot, and it's kind of steep, so 2 cars can't pass at the same time. And if you're a little unsteady or, trying to walk up it, there needs to be a staircase going up with a banister. So what we would like to do is probably something we should have entertained right from the beginning when we were, first making all the plans to rehab the building, is to request from the town to go into that acreage that's all woodland if you're facing the building, okay? And this way you're going down Washington Street to Main Street. There's some wooded land that goes down to the next house. I'm not sure what the acreage is on it, but, the whole parcel that belongs to the town is 17 acres, but that isn't anywhere near that. So we would like to, because there's really no other option, I don't think, go into that wooded land and make a parking lot.
How many parking spots are you trying to gain?
I would say we should try for 50
50 total or 50 additional?
additional.
What?
Because we've got, the top parking lot comes up to the back door, so that would be the handicap parking spaces right there.
Okay, and how many spots is that currently? Ballpark?
Well, it's not lined, and I did get a proposal from someone, well, it wasn't a proposal, it was just an outline that someone did for us, and they put in like 8 spots, plus 2 handicaps, and, I mean, you can fit more into that back spot, I know you can, but it's gotta be rearranged, I mean, I'm not a contractor, so we have to get a couple of people in there to evaluate it and give us some options and figure out the best way to do it. So I don't know if we should go up, yes,
What is the occupancy, the
one-
approved
100,
occupancy
100 people,
is of the building? Okay.
correct,
Thank you.
correct. What was I gonna say? Okay. I don't know. It's gone. Are there any questions? Any comments? Any other ideas?
So the additional parking is mainly what you'd be looking for, but would you add in the staircase with a banister to go along with that as well? Or is that something separate?
I think we should have one. And I had talked about that early on. Much, I would say like at least 5 years ago, I was talking about a banister. And we had some people look at that, and then I turned it over to Rennie, because I really wasn't getting anywhere with the contractors. I mean, they'd say they'd come, and then they didn't show up, or they say they send a proposal, they didn't send it, so I was just wasting my time and their time, and so I figured Rennie could do something with it, and here we are. He did something, okay, but it had to be torn up.
What are the primary uses where you would have large occupancy events?
Well, different programs, it's kind of hard to say. We get probably almost a full house for the antique appraisals. Some of the programs, maybe 30, 35, 40, 50.
Right.
It varies. And
So
what
do you,
people are interested in.
where do they park now? Are they parking
Back of
at
the building, they were parking down below.
where the fire station?
Until the basketball court was redone. So that's out now. And it's really kind of far for people, especially older people, to be walking, from the other side of the basketball court up that slope that's really dangerous, and there's no ramp. There's no staircase,
No railing.
no rail.
It
Anything
used
else?
to be gravel and grass.
There was no parking lot at all.
I was the
there.
scoutmaster there, and that's where the Troop 88 met.
Yeah.
And, yeah,
Yeah, there was no parking lot.
Yeah.
There were a couple of
If
big
you had
boulders
truck, you
out
could drive.
back. I mean, if you could see all the old pictures of what it looked like, you'd be amazed. You wouldn't think it was the same place. Anyone else?
what did you end up doing for septic?
We were able to go into the fire department septic system, because little usage in both buildings. Nobody's washing clothes, nobody's taking showers, at least maybe the fire department does, I'm not sure. But we certainly weren't, so low usage, and we got approval from the town to go into the fire department septic, and we had to do a little bit of repair work to it. There was something that was, broken.
Okay.
in the tank, I think it was, and so we haven't had any troubles. So that's been good.
Anybody else?
Anything else?
I see an item on our approved projects that have passed the expiration date that says something about window control and parking Washington Hall, so something's
Let's-
already been,
Window
Let's
the
finish.
no, right,
windows,
but, I mean,
windows were done.
oh, okay. All right,
Let's finish out public input. We'll
no, for sure.
run right down through there. All right, well, I look forward to seeing the proposal, and thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else for public input?
Just a question for you. The second bullet point there says here comments and questions about proposals and submission guidelines.
Yep.
I didn't have anything on any particular proposal.
Just a general statement?
Just some general statements about the process itself.
Come on up.
All right, thank you. All right, my name is Brian Lynch, 7 Star Road, Groveland, Mass. In full disclosure, some of you will know that I was one of the people that was against the CPA project, whole process, I should say. And I'm not here as sour grapes or anything like that. I respect the process. It went to the ballot, the best place for things like that to be resolved. The town said they want to keep it. We keep it. I'm on board with that. But I also feel of the opinion that if you're going to complain about something and not like the way it operates, if you don't speak up and try to offer some input, you just making noise. So that's why I'm here tonight. So when I saw your agenda, I follow these meetings, I follow these projects, a lot of things in town. And a couple constructive criticisms, you might say, would be the vetting process of these projects. Sometimes I think they may need to be a little bit more stringent. Just as Mrs. Walsh just stated, when she's trying to run this project, she's a great volunteer. She does great things with the Historic Society in town. But it's difficult for people that aren't in that world to function in it sometimes. So I don't know if there's a process where in these proposals, part of it is the hiring of a professional to oversee the project so that it actually gets done effectively, timely, with good use of public money. Anytime you're using public money, I think it has to be as transparent as possible. I think it has to be spent as wisely as possible. So that's one of the things. I think that the vetting and making sure that the person that's presenting it has the credentials and to actually complete the project. Because I noticed on your agenda as well, there's a lot of projects that kind of fell off the wayside, didn't get finished, there's still outstanding things years later. So that's one of my suggestions. Another one would be if the town, I think each of these projects should come with a street price, so to speak. The whole job's going out to the open market. If you decide to keep some of the work in-house and you use the highway department, then it's kind of almost like a double dip. All of a sudden, instead of them cleaning catch basins and mowing fields and repairing potholes, they're at the Pines doing something for one of these projects that the project should be paying for that. Whether it's reimbursing the highway department or what have you, but it just seems to me that they don't have that much free time to be spent elsewhere. I would think it would be better use of their time to stay within their job description, and the whole job gets taken care of in the open market, private sector. Just another suggestion. I looked into some other towns, and they have quarterly progress reports, both the success of the job, where it's at, how it's progressing along, what level of completion they're at, and also a financial disclosure. I think that transparency would help a lot because, again, I drive around, I look at these projects, and I'm bewildered as to what's going on with them, and there's no way to find out in real time what's going on with that project. So I think that would be another, good thing to put into place, so to speak. And I noticed you have something about, trying to find an administrative assistant, what have you. Maybe that's something that if you hire an administrative assistant, they could create something on the webpage that shows each job with a progress report and how much money's been spent. They're at 65% completion, whatever. Just so that we, the public, can look at these projects and feel like if all that money's getting spent, it's being spent wisely, not, not kind of questioning it, because, I mean, I have a list of projects here that, I mean, we could just walk right over to the Pines right now, and there's an $86,000 sidewalk that the termination at one end is incomplete and at the other end is a disaster. We paid 86 grand for that. There was no oversight apparently, because it's not done well, what is done, and we're all done. We paid. We're out of money. So things like that. If that happens in the private sector, you get fired. There needs to be accountability. I'm not saying town employees should be fired for these things, but it can't just be like, oh, well, it happened. So I think things like that, we need better oversight on. I just watched this week.
You mind if I jump in one second?
Certainly.
There is, the website actually does provide a lot of information about the projects. I mean, I'm looking at it right now, and I mean, just for example, like Shanahan Field, they're talking about where it is, project timeline, construction, field survey work. So I mean, they're.
All right, so that's been updated recently then, sure.
Yeah. I think in the last year or so, I think there's been a lot of improvement in the sort of getting the information out, and it's something that we're really concerned about too.
Well, I appreciate that.
No, 100%. But I think your first and best resource there is to look at the website online. There's a lot of information. I mean, I'm just scrolling through it right now, and each of these projects.
Right.
Like there's information about what's happening. It's better. I think it's better than a quarterly report. Like it lays it out. So take a peek.
All right, I appreciate that, yeah. But like I say, I mean, I drove by the Pines this week and I watched them rip up asphalt that we put down 3 months ago. So we had the highway department spend time there. Equipment has an hourly rate, employees have an hourly rate. So we spent money there. Bitcon came in and put down maybe, I don't know, $15,000 maybe worth of hot top, and here we are ripping it up. I mean, it's just when you see stuff like that, it just, you look at that and say, it's got to be better. We got to do better. So that's my biggest thing is just, if there's vetting of the projects that ensures that there's somebody in place that has standing in that field to ensure that the job gets done well. And then, like you mentioned, apparently the website's better than when I looked at it, a while back.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, it's made drastic strides in the last 6 months.
well, that's huge. And I hope it continues. And, hopefully if you can find an admin, they can enhance that, and keep it up. But like I say, I was looking at other towns and they do that just to, it's good to get someone in front of your face sometimes so that you can, it's a lot easier
Sure.
to get a good reaction. I'm in the construction industry, so I know when I talk to a sub face-to-face, it's harder for them to kind of, schmooze me a little bit. I'm looking right at them, whereas a text message, it can sound real nice, So sometimes an interaction is helpful, I think. But
I don't think there's anyone on this board that is in favor of waste or, poor planning for execution of these projects or anything. I think we're all of the mindset that,
Yeah.
it's important that these public dollars get spent and not wasted. I'm with you 100% on that, and I think everyone on the board would echo that.
no, I appreciate that. And it's just like I say, it's,
To your point, with full transparency.
yeah, that's it. I mean, there's got to be transparency in it. And I know, you guys are all volunteers. I appreciate it. I've volunteered on boards as well. I've volunteered in many aspects of my life. So I know it's a commitment. I know it takes time out of your lives. I know you have limited time to meet, so hopefully, if you're meeting every quarter, maybe ask a couple of projects to come in, just so people can actually see a face, and realize that something's happening. But again, it's just my input, because like I said, I'm not one just to complain and then walk away. I'd rather stand up for, what I think might be the better, helpful thing, So, again, that's all I have, and, I'll continue to keep watching.
Mr. Lynch, we have completed approximately 60 projects over the life of the CPA in the last 18 years. And so I would be more than happy to sit down with you and go over all 60 of those and tell you how they were completed successfully, because I would disagree, that there's all these projects that were left undone or they weren't completed correctly or whatever, Obviously, the town, like any other town, doesn't always complete a project on the timeline that was originally proposed or in the manner that was originally proposed. So obviously, there are changes here and there that took place or could have taken place. But I would say that for the most part, all of those 60 projects that were completed and benefited the town. And as I say, I'd be more than happy to go over with you anytime.
Thank you very much.
Brian, I like your idea about if they use the highway department, that their time or their money should come out of the project funds and go into the highway department budget. And I don't know how that would be transferred, but that certainly makes sense. When a lot of these projects, the highway department works on them, and like you mentioned, it is not free money. They're not free time. They have to take time off from their other work, and they're overworked as it is. And that makes sense, that if they do any of the work, the money should come out of the project money and go into the highway budget.
Yeah, that's what I agree with. I just think that, if it's, if when the estimate's provided, it's on the open market, private sector, then whatever money they carried for that equipment work and that labor, if they're gonna use the town to do it, then that money, I think, should, we're paying those guys for a certain task. So if they're doing a different task, I think the money should come from that venture, so to speak. But again, that's how that is done in a municipal government, I wouldn't have a clue.
And there is a big savings, because if you're using the town employees, there's no prevailing wage for them.
point.
So when it goes out to bid, you have to figure in the prevailing wage, which is pretty costly.
Sure.
Another piece of this is that some of this is done volunteer, after hours, not necessarily on the company time, but out, we wouldn't discourage people from volunteering their time or efforts, and if people have specialized skills and they want to donate them to a project, we shouldn't say, just look in the middle. We should never say no to people that want to volunteer time and expertise, when we are focused on budgeting. Maybe now I am looking that way.
I thought you were shutting it down for lights at the ball field.
Not at all. But I mean, you're right. We're all here volunteering our time and our effort, and hopefully we're moving the needle. And so too, people in town that, put stuff up, as well as people that talk about what to put up, so.
Sure.
Be advised that we are mindful about, the dollars and cents of this, and, not being wasteful. I think it's something that's very, very prescient with us, especially with, these recent votes on should we even have CPC, right? But I wouldn't want to eschew people that want to help from actually coming in and helping on a project where they have their expertise for that.
Yeah, and, oh, go ahead, sorry.
Well, actually, I'm a clerk of the works on a project which I left and I've got to go back to yet tonight. Working for a company that's the OPM, Owner's Project Manager. I was wondering if somewhere we could consider with some of the larger dollar projects, say something over $250,000, requiring in the budget to hire a engineering firm or an OPM, but I don't want to get into the OPMs because basically a lot of that is just paperwork. But a field engineer to supervise, making sure, say when they do the stairs out here and the ramp, making sure that material's properly compacted. It meets ADA standards as far as slope, those kind of things. You basically need somebody in construction to do
And
things like
that's exactly
that.
what I said in the beginning, is on projects like that, you can't, we don't have an engineering department in town. We don't have anyone we can lean on
No.
that like bigger cities and towns do. So that's why I said, yeah, in a larger scale project like that, I hope that there is some funding set aside in that to ensure that that happens, because, like I say, it has gone the other way on some of these things where it wasn't done to current standard, and, and then we
But
suffer, I mean.
In when hiring a contractor, there should be language in the contract, which is, I believe Rebecca handles that, that basically it will meet engineering standards and by a independent engineering company. Therefore, you know the contractor's gonna fly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's something we can look into because we do have an engineering firm, that TEC, that looks at all of our planning things. So as an engineering firm, we hire them as an employee. So it's something we could look into and how we build that in and
Yeah,
figure out
I'm
the
not
cost
asking
of
to
it.
have an engineering firm come in on some of the small things that are
Well, no, on the, yeah, no, on the
20,000,
larger,
like
yeah.
the garden and a few other things like that, but,
But like an $800,000 parking lot, it wouldn't hurt to have
But-
TEC or somebody look at
You've got
it.
Shanahan Park, you've got this ramp, you've got several other things that were approved that are 6 digits that need a professional engineer or licensed construction superintendent to sign off on.
And I can probably assume that the ramp that's going in, part of that quote was having an engineering firm do the design and have that. It's just a matter of supervising and making sure
Yeah.
it's done the
I
proper
know we
way.
basically approved that with an engineering firm doing the design, but I don't believe there was any little fund set aside for engineering.
On-site.
So I'm looking
Compliance,
at
if you
the,
will.
I'm looking at the Shanahan Park, Shanahan parking thing, and one of the latest updates talks about town comments to TEC. So it's not as if, you know,
Right,
these
but-
things aren't being addressed at all.
Right, but the comments up front are great. I mean, that's pretty
No,
standard.
no, for sure.
Right, and so, but like I think Kim was getting at,
Yeah.
and I think you mentioned as well, it's like, once a project starts, like, when the concrete is coming, you gotta make sure that you're getting the proper concrete that you ordered.
We're pro oversight. We're
Yeah, right,
we're
that's
pro
huge.
oversight.
That's all I'm asking
Yeah.
for, is that,
Yeah.
you know, so that we don't end up with sidewalks to nowhere
Mm-hmm.
that were done poorly, you know? I mean, that was only 86 grand, and that went south. I'd hate to see 800 grand go south,
100%.
you know what I'm saying?
It's
So,
like, you know, on the ramp, I'm sure it's gonna be 4,000 pound concrete, which is, it's the strength rating. You wanna make sure that the truck backs up and it hasn't got 3,000 on it. Because, any one of the public walking along, once the concrete's hard, they can't tell the difference.
And I think that's Mr. Lynch's point, is the fact that when these large projects are submitted, that we make sure that we have the proper supervision, because mostly it's a town resident who's submitting a project that
Correct.
might have no knowledge. right?
Absolutely.
If I go and submit I think that we should have a parking lot for 200 cars, I would have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm not lay some hot top, but that's about as far as we can go, right? So I
yeah, that's
agree,
all
and
I'm asking.
I
I'm just
appreciate
asking
that.
for like accountability, you know, super oversight, especially with the, you know, with public money. That's all I ask, you know? But I appreciate your time tonight.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No, appreciate it.
And one other comment about the building and the cost of like town labor. I like that. I think it's a further discussion, because I don't know how legal that would be to be able to take these funds and give it to the
Pay
lighting, say the
yourself.
lighting
Right.
department.
Yeah.
there's gotta be some type of restraint there.
We can
This
put-
would be, this is the perfect topic for
But that's
Rebecca.
why.
to-
I'll put it on
That's
the
why we
next
talked
agenda for
about it,
Rebecca
yeah, so
and-
figure it out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe it can be done.
Yeah. Has to be a no donation.
Anybody else? All right, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is...
So I think before that, Mr.
You
Chair,
need to move
I'm
to
going to,
close
I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing.
All right.
Seconded.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
Oh, in point of order, the reason I was looking at you was because there are most
I'm-
of the members are this way. And I'm not trying to shun Mike, but he's the only one this way.
All right, so next on the agenda, we got review of the job description for the CPC administrator. I've attached that in the packet. take a peek at that. As I read through it, a couple things that jumped out to me where we might be looking for a little bit much is there was some requirements for grant writing skills. I just want to make sure, you know, if we're going to put this out here and we're going to do it, that, you know, we're getting the most bang for the buck. But I also am very cognizant about spending taxpayer money. I want to make sure this is something that we all feel we need. I look at the administrative support portion of it. I don't see that really as a need. Project coordination, sure, I can see that. Communication, again, I'm kind of on the fence on, so I just open it up to, you know, if anybody had any comments, if we wanted to make any revisions to this, or if we want to revisit the whole idea of this, you know, before we put it out and have it posted.
Is this a situation that is currently low-key handled by Rebecca, basically? And she needs some support for all the things she does to help this, you know, committee produce?
A lot of this was done before we even had a town administrator by either myself or other members of the committee. So rather than, I think, rely on us to do some of these administrative tasks, you know, and especially with the need to provide more information to the public like we're doing, it's very important to have somebody to rely on that these things get done. Otherwise, you know, it's volunteer time, volunteer effort, and, you know, that's when we get comments that we're not being open about things. So I think that's really the biggest need, is to have somebody who's the CPA person in town as an employee that can answer the questions, and it isn't up to us to always be present or trying to follow up on things.
Well, I mean, if you look at the very first part, you look at the definition, this is exactly what Mr. Lynch is talking about. This is exactly what he's asking for. And then, you know, and I think it's something that makes a lot of sense to have someone whose eye is on the ball on some of these things where, you know, if a layperson brings something forward and, you know, there are problems, this seems to be the kind of thing that would be awfully helpful. If, you know, we're talking about, administrative support isn't nearly as important as project coordination, right? And so if we're, really drilling down on what a person might do.
Right, but if we're talking about putting that in and carrying that cost of coordinating the project into the project, there's no need to double down on it with an additional staff.
Well, if that additional staff is expert in coordinating projects, then it would be an add, right? If this is a person that would see a bunch of different projects come to fruition and essentially, you would assume, get better at it, right? You know, develop or maybe already have, you know, experience doing that sort of thing. It looks like it would be an awfully important role, especially when we're really concerned about oversight. I mean, you know, again, playing with the roles, you know, and deciding about what might make the most sense. It's probably, seeing as the town administrator is one of the people who would assign and review the work, it'd be probably helpful to get Rebecca's input on this as far as, you know, really drilling down what are the, you know, say 3 core responsibilities of this person if we're going to hire them.
I agree that, you know, if you find a person that has good administrative communication skills, basically, public outreach is not a problem usually with something like that. But you're not gonna find, I don't believe that you're gonna find a person that has good administrative skills to assist Rebecca to update the website and a few other items that physically can supervise or coordinate or oversee field construction. It's two different items. So I still believe, like Brian said about getting, an engineer, making sure that, the compaction's right, the gravel is right, the slopes and everything else that we do for all the dirt projects that are listed, and even the construction projects. But that person probably cannot walk into an office here, jump on the computer and update the website. I just, maybe I'm too old about these things, but that's two different occupations or people that are
I agree, you're looking for.
professional in that aspect.
I don't think that this person is going to be doing that kind of work, but you need somebody to oversee the engineers, hire the engineer, figure out what kind of engineer you even need for some of these projects, and also to be able to direct a project manager to what kind of engineer they might need and who the possible companies to hire or individuals to hire. So, a lot of it is administrative work. It's things that, again, our town administrator is doing by default, unfortunately, and really, I think it should be a separate position that makes these things a lot higher priority getting done. In the proposal, it says approximately 19 hours per week, but I don't think it needs to be 19 hours a week. I think, we could probably get away with 10 hours per week.
Mr. Chair, did you create these, or were they already, do we already have them as?
This was already posted once before.
So we can adjust if need be, or?
Yeah, so I think what we're gonna do on this one, if everybody's in favor of doing it, is let's put a pin in it till next meeting. We'll get Rebecca's input. In the
100%.
meantime, if we run through it, if you have any suggestions or edits you'd like to make, and then at the next meeting, I'll leave it on the agenda and we can compile our thoughts and make a decision on it.
Yeah,
That makes good sense.
yeah, I agree to be able to read through it. I had 3 kind of follow-ups. Who would do the hiring of this person?
Rebecca?
Rebecca, okay. And I assume it's coming out of our budget, the CPC budget?
I believe we have an administrative budget set up for it.
Okay, cool. And then the next thing would be the cost of it. How much do we think is gonna be the going rate to get someone that has the knowledge that we need? to
And
perform?
Rebecca had some information on that
Okay.
when I talked to her, but I think it's all gonna come down to how many hours we're gonna need them to work, and,
And the other question is, maybe you split it up and you have one person working 9 hours for, the administrative things, or, and a different person working 9 hours, like this looks
I-
like two different jobs.
I agree that it looks like two different jobs, but I also wonder if you're gonna get two different people, specialized fields, to work in 9-hour increments, because I'm not doing it. I wouldn't even entertain it.
No, you're not gonna get a special.
Because I don't think you're gonna get,
Yeah.
on a part-time gig. I
No,
don't think.
fair. It's a fair point. But your point to push this till we can get some additional feedback makes sense.
All right. Let it be said, let it be done.
So is it motion to table? Is that how we do it, Mike?
Sure.
All right, so make a motion to table the, reviewing the job description for the CPC administrator until the next meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So the next one is the exemption requirements for the CPA tax. This came up in the last meeting. It said we'd put it on the agenda. I know there was some people that were curious as to how the exemptions work. So I just want to, just full disclosure, give it out there. It was a little tricky to find it. But I reached out to the assessor's office, and the requirements for exemption, there's two different sets of income requirements, one for seniors, one not for seniors. They're listed on the CPC page of the website. And then to get to the application, it's on the Board of Assessors section of the website under real estate forms and CPA tax. Those forms need to be filled out by March of every year for tax exemption of that year, and they need to be renewed every year. So I just wanted to throw that information out there for anybody who may need it. And I'm also told that the Council on Aging, as well as the Assessors Office, are more than happy to work with anybody who needs assistance filling out those forms.
Mr. Chair, so was brought up, I remember last year, that someone said that it was a lot of red tape, it was very difficult to do. So I'd like to make a motion that the board create a subcommittee for the exemption subcommittee to assist residents, to help them through the process. I would gladly volunteer. I have zero clue on how to do it, but I think I could probably help figure it out and work with the townspeople to try to help residents that are having a hard time with it, to get through the process, because there are requirements set, and it's not only just by us, state has that law as well, so it's obviously there, and if our citizens can't figure out how to do it, I think that someone from us, our board, should be able to part of helping out, so I'd like to make that a motion of create a subcommittee for exceptions. And I'd gladly be on part of the subcommittee, if there's one member, two members, whatever, but I just think that we should definitely have a representative that someone can come out, reach out to say, hey, I need help, I don't know how to read this, the language is difficult, someone to come to, so, instead of having to come to you for everything.
So we got a motion on the table. Anybody like to second it?
I got one question. How many members do you want on the subcommittee?
It's up to the board, I just wanted to throw the idea out there, and anyone who wants to help out, I can just be me, but if someone wants to help out, they're more than willing, but.
I'd be willing to help you out.
Just to be a point of contact, really, but make it official that we have someone that can be spoken to, and we can bring it all back to the board and discuss it, and give updates on how we can make the process more efficient.
All right, so I'll go ahead and second your motion. And if we want to take a vote on it, all those in favor of establishing a subcommittee for tax exemption?
Aye.
Unanimous, passes.
Thank you. I know I didn't talk about this with anyone earlier, but I wasn't able to make last meeting, I apologize. But,
Like I say, any help and any
Yeah, that's
any
it. Yeah,
assistance
that's
we
what
can
we're here
give, I
for.
think it's really going to help
that's what we're here for.
take the stigma off.
One thing that happened last meeting, at least as far as I remember, was somebody said that the exemption issue wasn't on the CPC page. I'm looking now, and now it is.
I spoke to the assessor this afternoon, and she said she was going to try and move it, so
Yeah.
it was just.
So there
on
is, so you can find the information about exemptions right on the CPC.
You can find the information, but then the form was buried under the assessors.
The numbers need to be changed for,
The new year.
yeah. But other than that, the rest of it's correct.
Yeah.
She said that it was dollars that it was changing, not drastic amounts.
But yeah,
But
they,
that's all set by the state.
this says 2024 exemption, so they probably should have an item for 2025 exemption.
Yep. All right, should we move on to the updates on the 2024 projects? This was asked by the committee last meeting. think Claire already gave us the update on the National Registry, use paperwork.
Basically, it's paperwork, pictures, and we have a ton of pictures.
Do you have
Before, after.
do you have an estimated timeline of,
We've all, everyone that's involved in it's been pretty busy at this time of the year. So we're gonna try to get this done within the next month and get it into Boston.
okay, if you could just keep, shoot us an email, or whatever, just keep us apprised so we know, again, to get it out to the community that, it is being worked on and their money is being spent as they voted for it to be spent, that would be appreciated.
I think that Rebecca is collecting the information on all the projects, so I don't know that we need to be notified personally.
That's fair. Notify Rebecca and she can let us know. Either,
Yeah,
just get the information in. I know, because I know on that one, as well as the Perry Park, on the website, there's no information aside from,
yeah, that's only because that hasn't been updated, but,
It is updated. It's updated.
but it may not have been updated when our chair looked at it last.
I looked at it a week ago, so.
Yeah.
And it just said pending. But you're the Perry Park design phase. Would you mind?
But before we do that, I just wanted to throw, you mentioned that you needed to have a very specific format to submit to the state. Is that covered? Do you have that covered, or I assume it's just pictures, so is there do you need assistance with the formatting to send it to the
We
state?
just need myself and photographers and the right equipment to do this project. And I think most of it can be done at Washington Hall.
Okay, I didn't know if the state, I just didn't know if the state needed a specific format of getting a file to them, and you were having difficulty with that, okay, okay.
I'm gonna
They do have a specific.
okay. And if you need help with that, I'm glad to be able to help with the formatting, stuff like that, so, yep.
Hey, Stephanie Bartelt, 18 Chestnut Street, Project Manager for Perry Park. As far as updates, we are still in phase 1, which is we've hired the design firm. They've completed a survey of the park boundaries. We had some targeted knotweed treatment just this week, actually. Hired that contractor. He's a specialist. Next, we are awaiting the completion of the conceptual design by the design firm. And then after that, phase 2 will be getting all of the specs and technical details for how to implement, plant purchasing, planting, and then any equipment that we decide to move forward with, like, I want to repair the benches that are there because they're kind of cool, but like maybe a shade structure. We were talking about a swing, something to make it a contemplative, quiet place full of native plantings and public education opportunities.
All right, so you're working in the design phase. I assume they're going to have a conceptual drawing at some point.
Exactly what I'm waiting for.
I'm eager to see it.
Me too.
And the knotweed removal has already started?
Yes.
And that's a 2-year process?
We'll see. It depends on how much of it grows back. So it's a targeted application, and then depending, and this is the exact window right now, like we're right at the tail end of the treatment phase. So depending on how much grows back, yeah,
So TBD.
TBD.
Fair
But
enough.
he's already contracted for next year, so.
Excellent.
And I'm going to just ask one follow-up for the town. I know that people had mentioned online about seeing someone doing the spraying. I happened to see them as well. And there was a conversation around whether it was organic or safe because there's a catch basin that's right there and it flows into the river. Do you have any idea what he
It
used?
is exactly the formulation that would be used if it were a wetland, which is glyphosate with a surfactant targeted at the leaves, and the surfactant helps it to stick to the leaves. I happen to be having conversations with somebody in a butter who lives across the street, who works for the EPA, who is very much in favor of this
Cool.
treatment, so.
And I knew that this, Conservation Commission has been, everyone's been involved.
I'm
so
a conservation commissioner.
Right, so I knew that there was not really much of a chance of it not being, just being
I
used,
chose-
some type
chose
of,
This person because he's such an expert and he's done so much research and public outreach, so.
yep. He looked like I wanted to go nowhere near him with the full garb and.
I had
full
Matt go
face.
and take pictures of him.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else?
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, on the town clerk document scan, that, I reached out to Beth, she emailed me back and let me know that that contract is signed, and they're awaiting pickup of the documents to have them scanned, so that is in the works. On the next 4 projects, the community garden, Shanahan, Pines Parking, and the Pine Shading Seating, Rebecca's working on them. She was unable to attend tonight to give the update. She did say that the website is up to date on it, and that she expects all 4 of those projects complete by the end of 2025.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, on to the next topic. And this is again a carryover from the last meeting about potential changes to the CPA bylaw regarding the open space and affordable housing reps. I've attached the bylaw to the packet this evening. And, sorry, too many papers. In the bylaw, it says that should any of the commissions, boards, councils, or committees who have appointed authority under this section no longer be in existence for whatever reason, the appointment authority for that commission, board, council, or committee shall become responsibility of the Board of Selectmen. So, at very least for the time being, but I think even going forward, I'd like the board's permission to go and speak to the selectmen and ask them to appoint those 2 positions. I feel more people on this board is better than less people. So I'll ask Rebecca to put it on the next agenda with the selectmen, or select board if I can, and, go there and ask them to fill those positions for us.
The only thing I'd also like to add to that is, I know that we've been doing it on other bylaws, is we change selectmen to select board.
Select board,
That's something
yeah.
that's, needs to be updated on.
I feel like that was on town meeting last year, and
And I know
it might just be an old copy.
I know we had to do it on just recently on the planning board, so I think that all of the bylaws throughout has to, but I think it has to be voted on, so
Yeah.
I just happened to notice it as you read through it.
And then, as far as getting additional members for, the position of open space and affordable housing, would you be seeking to have people appointed that are sort of speaking on those topics in particular, or just?
Personally, I would prefer someone with no affiliation to any board or anything, and just a public member of the town to just have input as a public member of the town, as, show people. If that would be my preference, but I'm open to some direction from you guys on what you'd like to ask for.
I mean, the bylaw is kind of silent about how the select board would pick those extra people.
I guess maybe it's up to the select board.
Yeah.
But I'm sure if we made the recommendation one way or another, that they would be amenable to it.
The problem is that those 2 areas are directly related to the 4 funding sources. So not having an open space designated person or someone who doesn't really know anything about open space or cares for it, to then be the representative for funding, 25% of our task or mission doesn't seem to make sense. And the same exact thing with affordable housing. That's, again, tied to 25% of our mission. And to have someone come in and just be here, filling a slot doesn't seem to make sense.
It seems to potentially undercut the purposes of the board. of the
Yes, and
committee.
it's going to make it more difficult for us to, pursue these areas. Obviously, did we hear anything tonight about needs for affordable housing from anybody coming in and saying that? No, and we have no one on the board that's saying, hey, we got to do more about affordable housing. And affordable housing has been the one area that not only Groveland, but many other cities and towns that have community preservation haven't always been doing the best job in fulfilling. So I think that rather than, the bylaw says something that could be done. So I think what we should do is ask the select board to temporarily appoint somebody with expertise in these two areas to this board. And then I think we should pursue changing the bylaw to address things like this, to say that if the select board are going to appoint somebody in a particular area, that they have experience in those areas, and also come up with perhaps, some other committee or source for representatives that could be permanent members.
So, Mr. Chair, and Mike, I tend to agree with you a little bit on that you would like to have someone kind of in that space, the open space, affordable housing. Currently, those committees do not exist anymore, correct?
Correct.
They're vacant. So, one, it would be nice if committees could be
Well,
filled, but we all
I
have
bel-
that problem.
Yeah, I believe the open space got into the rec committee, and then the Affordable Housing Task Force isn't currently practicing, but isn't disbanded either.
Okay.
So again, I feel like however we want to attack it, we need to get them, and, like I say, I think more ideas sitting around the table is better.
So, and that's, my point was gonna be that we have in the bylaws that we don't have, if they no longer exist or no one is able to be appointed, then the the select board are able to appoint someone. I think we definitely should do that. As far as maybe bylaws, we put that's a 1 year appointment, whereas, the people from other boards are all 1 year and it's redone. So instead of, whereas that member of open space and affordable housing, it shows 3 years here.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're all 3 years. I think they're all,
I think it
I think it
all
varies. Some
ends
are,
up as
some
3
are,
years.
some are 2 and some are 1, I believe, right now.
which is strange, 'cause I think I only did it for 1 year and I had
I-
to be revoted back on.
I think it's, initially it's 1 year, and then after that, it's 3.
Okay. I didn't
It was very confusing.
I didn't realize I signed up for 3 years. All right. But, yeah, it would be helpful to have someone from open space, but the fact that we don't have anybody, I agree with you, we should have somebody. Someone's better than nobody. No matter who it is, and it's gonna be a volunteer. We know we have a hard time with volunteers. It's all the same faces that are in this room now,
Well,
and that's everywhere.
And that's
So-
kind of the point, is let's get some new ideas, let's get somebody who isn't necessarily involved. I mean,
Yeah.
we can meet a half dozen times a year for a couple hours, like, that's an easy commitment to make.
That's how we all started at one point,
Sure.
and now a lot of us are here for all meetings.
But I think it still would be preferable to get somebody
That's at
With
least interested
some
in that topic.
interest or experience in the topics, right?
Right.
And
Yeah,
then,
I
I mean, we have a representative here, so Ed, you're the representative from the select board. So it would be nice, we can just say to Ed, that's why we have these board positions, that, when you bring in these new volunteers, keep in mind that we're looking for someone for open space and the affordable housing task force, right? As best you guys can, right? That's-
Well, I look at the Open Space and Trails Committee is that's something that could fall under recreation. And the same
Well, it
thing
does and
with
it has. It
affordable
does and it
housing
has.
could fall under the Housing Authority. It seems like, almost like a duplication, even though they're two separate committees. they could be combined, Affordable Housing Task Force with the Housing Authority and the Open Space and Trails with recreation. Seems like it's the same, about the same thing.
So if they've been combined, do we rewrite the bylaw that we have 2 members from the Housing Authority and 2 members from the Recreation
That
Board?
certainly
To
makes
be able
sense.
to have the extra seats, to have more bodies here. And we can do it how we need deem fit. But at least for short term, you know, that now we can go, we know, go to Recreation Committee and say, hey, do you have someone else that would be willing to volunteer? And then you can, the select board could appoint them.
I can check next recreation meeting, see if someone's interested to volunteer for the open space and trails.
Just ideas, just throwing.
Yeah,
things
no,
out there.
so I think-
That's why we're all here, right?
Like I say, I think the first, I'll get into the Board of Selectmen, I'll ask them to fill these positions, and, you know, if we want to make recommendations of volunteers, you know, of another person from affordable housing, another person from recreation, then,
Yeah.
you know, let them decide, but I also, you know, I'm gonna re-echo the point that if those people don't want to do it,
Correct.
somebody is better than nothing.
Correct.
Agreed.
A seat is a seat, agreed.
I can, at our next housing meeting, I can approach the board and see if there's somebody interested there, or they might have somebody else that they've been talking about it but never got involved. See if we can raise some interest.
Yeah, it could even be like someone who's living in the Pines, right, Kim?
And there you go, there's someone who has to live with the decisions.
Yeah, right.
All right, any more conversation on that, or we think we're good? Anybody have any issue with me going to the select board and asking? Fair enough, I will ask Rebecca to put me on the next agenda for that. Moving on, discussion on how to use completed CPA projects as assets for the town. Patrick, this is something you asked to put on last meeting, so I'll kind of
Yeah,
hand it
and I
over to
mean,
you.
again, one of the things that's tricky, and I mean, I'm new to, you know, it's a public, you know, political movements and whatnot, and how you actually get something done, which pot the money goes in, and all these various different things. And again, this seems like a topic that's really ripe for Rebecca to opine, because it's not just so simple as saying, all right, I want to run a co-ed sports league now that I've got lights. Let me just get registrations.
someone to-
Let me just get registrations and get it paid for. No, you can't put money into that fund. It has to go into a different thing. We have to have a different pot of money. Like, so again, it's cool to do the things to get these assets improved and more functional, but there is a logistics that has to be complied with to make sure that it actually runs. And that's, you know, I mean, I think everybody's interested in, you know, moving the needle on this stuff. Once we have these cool things, getting them used. We're gonna have pickleball courts, we should have pickleball leagues. You know, like, but it's not so simple as just saying, okay, you know, I'll take all the registrations and take all the money and give it to the town. The town has 8 different pots that it could go into, and,
Way
you
more
know.
than 8.
Well, no, but that exactly echoes my point. So, you know, so Rebecca seems to be the guru as far as, okay, this is how it has to work logistically, but,
All right, so you want to just carry this over to the next meeting?
I would, I'd move to carry this over until we can have Rebecca talk about it, because I think she's the expert about the sort of stuff that we need to move it. So move this to the next meeting?
Sure.
Second.
Thanks.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. All right. Next up is an update from the town council on the Vito project expiration date that we were discussing last meeting. I've included the response from town council. Basically saying, the way it's written, it must be extended by a town meeting vote. We are powerless about it. In the future, we can add in language to say, or as extended by the Community Preservation Committee, and that would cover us and allow us to do that.
Is that something we generally would want to do or generally would not want to do?
I think if you ask opinions of the 7 people sitting here, you're gonna get 7 different opinions. I'm of the opinion that every one of these projects should have an expiration date, and that if it goes past the expiration date, that every one of these projects should go back to town meeting. That's me personally. The town taxpayers have voted for a project to be done with money allocated for that project. If you cannot get it done in the timeline, then circle back and try again. I know it's kind of a hardline stance, and I understand things happen, but I mean, if we look at this particular Vito project, this project's already been extended 3 times. And you can't tell me that, you know, a project that was originally pitched in 2011 can be done for the same amount of money in 2024. It's impossible.
Well, so that actually brings up a very important point, and this is where it might be appropriate to reserve discretion for this sort of thing, because if we're going to be hardline about it and then cost ourselves a whole bunch of money because this thing is, you know, whatever the thing is, has to be redone at a more expensive rate because it's 5 years down hence or whatever, like.
But you're
we
not
might-
going to get it done for that rate if you haven't done it already. You're not going to go out and hire a contractor that's going to work for 2011 prices.
No, I understand, but, you know, it's different, you know.
I'm sure there's shades
There
of
might,
gray.
right. So I would be hesitant to say that we should be absolute about it one way or another, and at least reserve some discretion potentially to be able to, you know, look at a particular project and say, okay, what do you need to get over the finish line? And write in various projects what, you know, have the discretion to write in this, or as extended by the committee, you know, depending on what it is.
Yeah, perhaps when we're reviewing the proposals, we can, you know,
I think that's the right time.
have this
That's the-
conversation to add it in there.
Yeah, that's the right time to do it.
I also think that if we have a administrator and we get more regular updates, then we wouldn't really have to worry about too much of the projects being expanded, because we'll know where they're at a lot sooner, Boston, and we can nix them right then and there.
And there might also be a way big difference between a very large project and a very, you know, a small project in dollar amounts too, about how we feel about, well, you know, the Vito project is way different than Shanahan, you know, so like, we might have different feelings about how that would work. But again, I think you're right. When the things come up, it's the right time to discuss it.
I mean, again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I also don't want it to be lost. Like,
Sure.
the taxpayers voted for this to be done with their money. It should be done in a reasonable amount of time. And we should be holding people to that standard to get the project done in that time frame.
Which also helps for future projects that people know that they better put up or shut up. I agree.
Well, you know, I think we've been focusing on construction-related project, but, you know, if you look at the 6 projects that haven't been completed and have passed their expiration date that you have listed here, really, the Vito hand tub is really the main one that's construction-related. The remaining ones, you know, Washington Hall is somewhat related to that. But the other ones, there's valid reasons why they aren't completed, whether it's, you know, dealing with on the conservation restriction, dealing with the legal terms of trying to get that completed has been very difficult.
No, I'm not suggesting that we say in a year all these projects are done. If you have a complex project and you want to give yourself a 5-year time window to work on it, then so be it. But I mean, the line has to be drawn somewhere.
No, I understand, I agree with that 100%. I'm just saying that, you know, so much of what we've been talking about is construction, but, you know, so the bottom line is, I think it's hard to put a time frame on some of these things, particularly, it's probably easier to put a time frame on a construction project than it is on, you know, putting a conservation restriction on a property, say, because it's, you know, it's not a straightforward, simple thing to do often. So I would say that we definitely would want, you know, I don't think we should put a expiration date on them, but if we did, I would certainly say we should put that can be extended by the CPC rather than have to go back to a town meeting vote.
I think that whenever it's written into an agreement by Rebecca or somebody, you could put a line item in that basically states that a one-year extension can be granted by the board with the presentation of the reasons for delay or something to that effect. Just to, but,
That's a smart middle position. One, I guess, maybe an important thing to think about is why in these 6 circumstances didn't they get done? You know, and so it would be interesting and maybe helpful to the discussion to hear, you know, was it, you know, things out of third parties that were, you know, out of the proponent's control? Was it, you know, lack of movement by the proponent? Was it, you know, not enough money, budgets changed? You know, like, it could be any of a number of reasons, and it could be different for, you know, for any of these projects. The good news is there's only 6, you know, of all the things, and if we're looking at what's happening right now, it sounds like things are moving forward from the 2024 project, so it sounds like we're in pretty good shape, especially, you know, that last slew of things that Rebecca was talking about. So it looks like we're not adding to the list, we're kind of catching up.
No, but this, as we moved into the next section with the other projects that have passed their expiration date, the decision needs to be made whether we are gonna
Resubmit them, yeah.
go back to try and get an extension on it, or if we say, you know.
I thought you said we
scrap
can't.
it,
I thought you said
resubmit
we
it,
can't
and
do
try
it.
over. Well, we can, but we have to go to town meeting with it.
Well, right, I mean, so that's, so it's basically, with each of these 6 projects, we would have to decide whether the CPC wants to go forward and resubmit them for, you know, approval at the next meeting.
Right, or.
That'd just be like any other
No,
project.
well, yes and no, because if we're just applying for an extension, all the original timelines, money, all that stuff stays the same. But like, again.
Oh,
and
so I'm misunderstanding.
I feel as though whoever submitted these projects, resubmit a new application. You can obtain the same goal, and that's fine, but I think we should be doing that rather than extending projects that have already been extended, you know, 3.
Could we get the proponents of each of these 6 projects in here to
I-
say like what they want to do and what they would ask the CPC board?
I don't even know that any of these projects want to still move forward aside from the veto one.
I know the veto wants to move forward.
But I don't know, you know, and I think the Acquire 733 Salem Street from what and Mike, feel free to jump in. I mean, you were.
Yeah, so I can tell you, I intend to put them in as another project. It's useless to go before town meeting and say to extend this, because nobody's going to understand what it is. And it's probably harder to go in and ask for an extension of something than to go in.
No, but
with-
that had been I mean, I pulled all the town meeting records for the last 15 years, and that had been how they were going, was as extensions. There's, you know, like I say, that veto one had a couple extensions. The conservation restrictions had a few extensions on it. They weren't submitted as new projects.
But what I'm saying is, I think they should be put in as new projects. The only one that I intend to put in as a new project is the land acquisition. The conservation restriction, it's not necessary to put in as a CPA project. The weed removal, most of the work has been done, and it doesn't need to go in as a project. And the open space and rec trails, I think eventually, working with the rec board, the commission probably wants to put something in, but not this year. So those can all go away. We can close those out. And just, as I say, I'll bring forward something for the
That was one of your
acquisition.
proposals earlier, correct?
Yeah, right.
Same
733
parcel.
Salem is the
Yeah.
is that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the other, the 1, 2, 4 can all go away.
What about the Washington Hall stuff? Is that part and parcel of what they want to do now?
So this one actually had projected costs for this year on it. And Rebecca paused all these, so no money can be spent, nothing can be done until you know, until
Sort of
they
figure
get-
it out, yeah.
Till it's figured out, but,
So
hey,
whatever
you're
is
still here.
lingering,
Do you mind?
Go ahead.
whatever's lingering from the,
The windows are done, okay? They've been done for quite a few years now.
so what about, what's the parking then?
That's
Parking, that's the one.
what
that's
she's
like
talking about.
That's the one that hasn't been submitted yet.
a mess.
No, do you know?
No, but there is something that
what
was
the
already
projected
approved.
$6,400 cost on an already approved project? Do you know what that was for? There's a projected cost for fiscal year '25 of $6,400 on that window control and parking at Washington Hall.
I mean, you can't get a parking lot done for 6,400.
Was that the lining the parking lot?
I'll ask,
Yeah.
I'll ask Rebecca to.
The windows are done.
Okay.
No, I think that, Claire, I think it may have been part of that paving that was done for the basketball court came out of that project. With that secondary road that was put
It
in.
should have come out of the parking lot project.
Yeah, that's when it did, that's what it did. So that, I believe that's what that $6,400 is.
I don't know, I never saw the slip on it.
No, Rebecca would only be the one that probably knows, but I would make a motion that we direct that $6,400 towards administrative funds, because I think to be consistent,
I-
it shouldn't be,
I don't think we can because it's past its expiration date.
No.
We can't do anything.
no, but
without
we
the-
can do it from our administrative.
Oh, you pay the 6,400?
Yes.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, just to keep it clean so that we're not,
I'd want to hear from Rebecca
I also-
before we vote on something like that. Again, I'd want to make sure she's,
I want to know exactly what the money is for,
yeah,
before we make the decision of whether we're going to go with it or not.
right.
And you had said, so the rest of these, the other five, all the monies that are allotted in there, they cannot be spent. If the conservation restrictions came and said,
None of
I
this
have a
money
bill, nothing.
None of this money can be spent without going back to town meeting.
Okay,
yeah, all those funds will go back into the category that they came from.
okay.
So but those are all CPC funds.
Yes,
Right, okay.
but they'll go,
Address the chair. I'm under some time constraints, so I need to excuse myself from the meeting because I have to be back in Beverly to approve pressure tests on a new HVAC system by 9 o'clock. So-
We appreciate your time.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Thanks,
Sorry, I
Tim.
didn't think it was, but,
I think we're almost done, if it makes
Yeah,
you
we
feel
had some
better.
nice spirited conversations, if nothing else.
Yeah.
All right, so,
Didn't you want to
Thank
put
you.
forward on the veto hand tub? Do you want to talk about that next time? I
yes.
thought you wanted to,
Why, just because
You were interested in it.
parts of it were made by, manufactured by Paul Revere?
no, I think it's,
And
a
the fact that when I was captain of South Station, we actually got it pumping water.
well, that's cool, and also there's a potential grant writing opportunity for like, it's called Massachusetts 200, and I think there's a chance that if you find something super historical, you can maybe get some grant money to fund it,
I
so.
didn't realize that. I was basically more into the,
But if we're talking about Paul Revere, that's the kind of thing that might fit that pocket.
yeah, the actual copper nozzle that's on the, right up there was produced and stamped by Paul Revere.
Awesome.
The hoses are leather with copper rivets. That came out of the building next to his shop.
It's awesome.
So that's just a little bit.
all right, moving on to the next thing, so we can wrap this up. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the 9/5/24 meeting. They're attached in.
They look to be in order, I'll move for passage.
Second,
Yeah, I don't think you can second, you weren't here.
Oh, yeah, I'll
I
second.
read them.
Fair enough. All right, so we got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right,
It's unanimous.
I won't vote then either.
all right, fair enough. And next up, set the date and time of the next CPC meeting. I've got Monday, December 16th at 6:30 penciled in, if that works for everybody.
Do you want to have a November meeting?
what do we need to do at our next meeting?
Well,
Have Rebecca present?
we have Rebecca present to go over that CPC administrator
Yeah.
position.
Okay,
I mean,
You say the 16th?
The 16th of December.
so with the project deadline being the end of the year, I think it might be a good idea to have another stab so we can, I mean,
You
for the referendum.
try for something in November?
Oh, sure.
All right,
I
I'll,
mean, anything in and around, just like a month out-ish. 17th?
yeah, we're gonna,
When do you meet for, you're in finance, right?
yeah, finance is Wednesdays.
Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Ed, what nights do you meet?
It's Mondays, right?
I tried to pick the off Monday, of the select board
Mondays,
meetings, because that's when no other meetings were scheduled.
Okay, cool.
So the 14th and the 21st would be right in
Of
that.
November.
buffer. Yeah.
November what?
You want to say 14th?
Sorry, what days?
He was doing Monday, but.
Oh, I thought we were trying to do a Thursday because nobody's got meetings on that day. Or do you have a conflict?
I have a conflict. I prefer Monday.
Okay.
If, yeah,
So
if anybody else has a conflict on Monday, we can keep it Thursday.
So
But
Monday, the 11th is Veterans Day.
Yeah.
So, is the 18th going to be would that be a
That's a.
select board meeting?
That'd be this third, right? They're the first and third?
yeah, you guys.
First
are-
and third, right?
Every other week, and I don't have
Yeah.
a calendar with me.
Okay.
It's,
We'll meet,
they meet.
You met Tuesday, right?
yeah, we did met Tuesday, so it'll be 2 weeks.
They're gonna meet that
29th.
Yep, they're gonna meet the 12th. So it could be the
18th?
18th.
Yeah.
All right, November 18th is the
Let's do that.
preferred date. All right. And I'll circle back with Rebecca and make sure we're available, and then,
Awesome.
and I'm gonna have her keep the 12/16 as the following one, just in case anybody filling out applications has
I
any
think that's a good
questions or issues.
Yeah.
We can certainly do that.
And at 6:30 on both November
sir.
18th and December 15th?
16th.
December 16th, November 18th,
Yeah.
6:30 PM. Right here, this wonderful time.
Perfect.
All right, any other items not reasonably anticipated at the time of posting? Mike, you got anything?
No.
Patrick?
No, yeah, this is fine.
EJ?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Linda?
No.
Good. Ed?
Yes, maybe an agenda item for the next meeting is a vote a vice chairman, in case the chairman isn't here, not available. Maybe also take some of the workload off of the chairman. We'd have to do that at the next meeting.
I think it's a good idea.
All right. I've got nothing else. Kim's gone, so,
Motion to close the meeting?
Second.
motion to close, 8:10. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, good day. Meeting's over.
Thank you.